Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the Algebra 1 concept of rewriting polynomials. This is standard A.10D in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 2 of the 2018 released STAAR test. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. So we have these basic expression here, negative 28x squared plus 35x. We need to rewrite it here. So here is one of the things that we can do when we're looking at a basic expression. And it's called factoring. So we typically, it's the distributive property in reverse is what it is. Right? So here's the distributive property. And we've been looking at this for years. The distributive property of multiplication says that if you multiply a times an expression b plus c, right, it's the same as multiplying a by each term in that expression, ab plus ac. So we'll maybe draw some lines saying, hey, we're going to distribute that a out to the ab plus ac, right? And so if we were to test this out real quick, make a equals 1, b equals 2, c equals 3, we'll see real quick that it's going to be the same thing because it's going to be 1 times 2 plus 1 times 3. That's going to end up being 1 times 5, and that's going to end up being 2 plus 3, which obviously works, right? 5 equals 5. So that's the distributive property. Well, what we have here is we have this right here. Okay, so this is what the AB and the AC is, and we need to make it back. We need to factor out, or we need to make it back into this distributive property right here, right? The A on the outside. So what is a common factor? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of take each term here, and we're going to look. Each term has a variable in this case, and each term has a constant. And so is there, first let's deal with the variables. All right, so I've got an x squared, which really an x squared is, we can think of it like this, right? X squared is really the same as x times itself 2 times, right? So x times x. So what is a common factor in both of those? Well, that's got an x times an x. So I could take an x out of both, right? So that would leave the 35x, which is the 35. And this would leave the negative 28x squared with negative 28x. I'm going to take one of those two x's away. I would take the only x away from the 35. Now, what about our constants, right? Our coefficients. Well, I've got a 28 and a 35. If we're thinking, you know what, those are both multiples of 7. So what if I were to take a 7x right here? Now, if I wanted to, it looks like, take a look at our answer selections here. Look at all of our select. I mean, I could take a 7x or I can take a negative 7x, but it looks like in all of these, we want to get it to a positive 4x. In order to make that a positive 4, I'm going to need to end up making this a negative 7. Okay? So let's see what would happen if I were to divide both of these terms by negative 7x. Okay? So negative 28 divided by negative 7 is going to be positive 4. X squared divided by x is just going to give me 1x. Okay? Now I've got 35 over negative 7. So that's going to give me a negative, right? And that's going to be a 5. And then x over x, right? That just leaves nothing. Now you can't simply divide both of these terms by negative 7x. Since that's our common factor, what we end up doing is making that our a term. That sticks out on the outside. That's negative 7x. And so if we wanted to test it out, right, we can multiply that back by both to make sure we get back to the same thing, and that's going to give me a negative 28x squared. Those two negatives make a positive, right? That's going to be 35x. So that gets me right back to where I wanted to. So here is my answer. So I'm not looking at f and h. And the difference between g and j is going to be that plus or that minus, but we do want that minus. So my answer here is G.